this Supreme Court issue, the Chief Justice thing. What is your opinion on all of that?
I think it's one of the issues I've been very passionate about. If you've been following me, I've made a lot of videos on this whole thing because you see, when I started the conversation, I told you that state institutions are supposed to be the foundational element of our democracy. And the prominent ones among them are the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. These are supposed to be institutions people should have unfettered trust. The fidelity should be absolute, unwavering, resolve in these institutions. They should stand still, one man standing. Even if everything is going to betray this country, not these institutions. But very often, Parliament tends to become some kind of partisan stuff. Executive, depending on who is in power, tends to behave some way, a bit unrefined in the way they do things. But the judiciary has a very revered role to play in our integration as people, in our cohesion as people. So that institution cannot afford bias, cannot appear unindependent, cannot appear to be unneutral. It's supposed to engender trust and absolute confidence. In the past few years, one of the talking points in our political discussion has been the judiciary. Issue about non-commonsensical rulings. Rulings come out of the apex court. You read from ordinary person and say, this is absolute crap.
They got the name unanimous.
Exactly.
Something.
Yes. The judiciary was subjected to public mortification on various political platforms with names famously like you mentioned, unanimous 11, unanimous whatever. So that defamed the judiciary. It killed public trust. There was no confidence. So all the polls that were run prior to the election pointed to the fact that public trust and confidence in the election were quite low. I've told you, politics, perception is very key, very important because it informs political choices. That is why corruption, they don't measure corruption in anything. We measure it through perception because it is that inform political choices. So when people perceive that their judiciary is corrupt, it will inform the kind of choices. In recent time, if you have observed, there are a lot of killings going on in this country. There are a lot of attacks. People don't have trust in the institution. I will not waste my time go to court. I will take vengeance on you. You understand? So when people lose trust in the institution, that is what happens. So that is why some of us were very vocal when President Akufo-Addo decided to pack the judiciary, Supreme Court, and other with friendly people, individuals with non-party ties. You see, you might argue, yes, they have the qualification they have, but the optics of it. We are dealing with human beings. We are not dealing with robots, people with emotions. They can read and understand. So the very moment you appoint parliamentary field candidate of a particular political party into the judiciary, it raises concern. You understand? The person may be the most competent person among them, but the optics doesn't make sense. It's highly unreasonable to do these things. But the gentleman decided never to listen to anybody. Decided to pack the judiciary. At the point, we even went past the usual number of 14, and he kept packing. And it got to a time the rulings, everything coming from the judicial, the Supreme Court were devoid of reasoning, were devoid of common sense, were devoid of logic. The poverty of logic and reasoning, most of the reasoning were so astonishing to the point that it started a lot of public conversation. You are privy to all these realities. You understand? So there were call for consent that we need to look at our judiciary and make it, we sanitize it because trust is low. So lo and behold, we went to the polls, and then we had an election. A new president comes in, and there are calls. And let me also make a point that the president doesn't have power to sack or remove a chief justice.
He doesn't have the power.
Have. No. There is nowhere in our constitution that says the president has the power or the authority to remove a chief justice. But his power of removal only becomes activated when a petition is sent to him. I don't know if it makes sense. The president's power to remove chief justice only becomes activated when he is petitioned by a Ghanaian. And in time past, there has been a number of such undertakings where individuals have gone through similar processes. In not the chief justice, but people at her level, high court judges, former Shraj boss, the EC boss, they are all placed at the same category. The Article 146 deals all of them. The processes and everything that were used to deal with those individuals are the same as what is being applied here. So the process has been activated. A petition is submitted to the president to do the usual thing that we know of. Then there is this hostile awakening from the woman fighting everything, creating an impression that there is a deliberate attempt to hound her out. And my position has always been, you are a Chief Justice. You are supposed to be a very intelligent, reasonable person. Why don't you argue your point out rather than playing the political game? Because you will survive with the political game. So argue your point out. You are being accused of having done A, B, C, D. Fight that particular thing by meeting whatever committee that you're supposed to. Then she comes up with a very extraneous argument that make you feel surprised. Like, well, is she really a lawyer? Because sometimes some of the arguments she has been making are fundamentally flawed. A deviation from reason and common sense. For instance, she's saying that the president, you see, when a petition is submitted to the president, he forwards to Council of State, and the Council of State will establish prima facie. That is establishing merit, because the Constitution sets a threshold within which that particular merit can be established, whether the person is incompetent, whether there is a misbehavior or infirmity, both body and mind. These are the three realms within which the Chief Justice can be removed. So a petition is submitted. The Council of State, it is not an adjudicatory body. That's it, to listen to people and say we are making a decision. They are only examining the competence of the petition that has been submitted and communicate back to the president to make a decision. It is not a court for you to say, if Council of State is going to look at my petition, I must be heard. So when she wrote to the president that she should be heard, I said the president didn't have to give her a copy of the petition at that time.
But he did.
He did. That Mahama was being benevolent, because he didn't have to. Because at that point, that process wasn't an adversarial process where some adverse finding could be advanced against the Chief Justice to make a case that, per the principles of natural justice, I have to be heard. At that point, it's a Council of State making assessment to see whether the petition meets a particular threshold, so that a proper adjudication process will be set in motion. That is a quasi-judicial team. That is the committee the president set up after this particular one. So at that point, if you are not heard, then your fundamental right have been breached. Because per the principles of natural justice, the accused must be heard. So at that point, that is a quasi-judicial process. So you must be heard. So at the early stage, but she started making this argument up, and then she comes out with a very funny argument that the ruling from the premier facie, she has not been informed. She doesn't know the ruling. I'm saying, what ruling? The thing is not a judicial process. This is a Council of State. Most of them are not even lawyers, even though there are former Chief Council of State. But it's not a formal judicial process where they write ruling and say, we have found her guilty here. That you must that must be availed to you. You understand? It is not a judicial process. All that the Constitution says that when Council of State make that decision, they communicate to the president, and president will continue with a subsequent way. And in the past, that is what has been done. This current Chief Justice has been part of similar process that has removed people in the past. Because Charlotte Osei went through the same procedure. She didn't ask for the ruling of Premier Facie. Former Shraj boss, who was appointed by Professor Mills, was removed by John Mahama in 2016. Even though it was NDC government, the petition was submitted by Anodon Pre and one Richard Niema from MPP. But Mahama, assessing that particular one, he removed that woman from power. Loretta Lamte, former Shraj boss. And then during Anas, this investigation that he did, caught some 4 judges in the district. Yes, President Akufo-Addo suspended these people and eventually sacked them. So the process the Chief Justice is fighting over today has not been due process. She has been part of a process that has been used to remove her other people in the past. As a Chief Justice, she didn't see anything wrong with that. But now that she's become, she is now sitting in the chair. She wants the rules to be different. When you do that, come on.
And the famous quotation, the law is the law.
The law is the law. Exactly.
No matter how many noises are made, the law is the law.
And then she comes out with another funny argument that, hey, I want the whole thing to be heard in camera. So where is this coming from? Because the constitutional framers were very explicit. It's a direct constitutional provision. Nobody can bend it. And the Chief Justice knows it. If you go to the Constitution, it is quite written clear in plain letter the hearing must be heard in camera. The Chief Justice was asking that constitutional provision to be waived by who? Because no court on this land can waive that option. It's an explicit constitutional provision.
Why do you think she would go directly against something that is put in the Constitution, and being the Supreme Court Justice should know? This is not new to her. Why would she do that? If she didn't have a solid case, what do you think?
If you are not a person of principle, that is why you change position when it's about you. And that is why I've lost every bit of respect for her, to be very honest with you. Because she should have defended people in the past by citing some of these things. May I have argued that there are a lot of problems with our 1992 constitution because they are not in sync with normal social prevailing circumstances. But this is not the time for us to be talking about it when you have sat there, used the same process to deal with others, and now that this is your turn, you are crying foul, raising illegitimate constitutional argument regarding this whole thing.
So, quick reaction. I think there was somebody, I don't remember the name, who actually said that if the CJ is removed, they will make Ghana ungovernable.
Make some ways to say MPP. Because we are Democrats. So, yes, I mistake, no. Now you can want you. Now, yes, Chief Justice to be a baby, a petition, that through the day. Or that trigger process, because all that here, Emma Ghana for I am money to me, and track Ghana has to be more, or not to be on your we make this country ungovernable. For His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
that is highly unreasonable. And I think the Chief Justice is not getting a wise counsel. And she's turned herself into a politician, and that is bad for her because you are not a politician, but you are now going political way, trying to whip public sentiment. That is why she staged that particular press conference.
That
was bad for business. She thought she was going to flip public opinion and perception. The following day, she was down. People were on her, butu. Because you see, you're supposed to know better. The Constitution says that these things must not be discussed in public. She took the whole package, send it to the media and discuss. That is a breach of a constitutional provision. So even if this whole process that is in activation doesn't go through in terms of proving substance, what she did at the press conference is another ground for another petition to be submitted. You understand? So are you making reasonable decisions at this time? You understand? And for the MPP, and you see, she has deviated or departed from common sense in the sense that you see, this is a woman. You are being accused of being in bed with the MPP because of certain things that has happened. People have tagged you famously Osono Mame. That is very bad. Takes away reputation, everything. So if you are going for a lawyer, you go for Godfrey Dame, who was Attorney General in the same administration you have been accused of being in bed with. Is it reasonable? So the poverty of thinking comes to bear here. You understand? The poverty. And again, there are a lot of institutions out there that can defend the Chief Justice, but the only entity that is out there crying about the Chief Justice is the MPP. You understand? Very often you see civil society organization, independent, fighting if the costs are reasonable. At this time around, you don't see anybody because people know the president has not at this point breached a single constitutional provision. And the Chief Justice herself as a lawyer hasn't been able to pinpoint exact constitutional infringement or any infraction committed thus far by the president or the process that is in motion. All that she keeps coming up are some infantile excuses that she's been sent to. Your friend is saying, what is the name of the place? Edu's Lodge, and that brings memories.
The Edu Lodge facility that the hearings are being conducted in featured very prominently in the planning of the murder of judges on June 30th, 1981. And this can be read about in the special investigative report on that terrible event in our nation's history. It will be recalled that there was a Major Samakwa, a military officer who was killed with the 3 High Court justices, who was a director of human resource of GIHOC. He was my uncle and my guardian when I entered the University of Ghana in September 1980. I was also living with him at the time he was abducted and murdered. Was Edu Lodge chosen for my inquiry to make me feel insecure? I think so. And I continue to hold the view that there's no reason why a judicial hearing is being conducted behind the high walls of Edu Lodge.
Yeah, come on. That is totally outrageous. And then whole lot of funny. I mean, the most disappointing part has to do with the accusations she's heaping on her colleague Chief Justice.
Yes.
She's saying that Amadou, the other guys, Panamai and Co, are going to be biased in this whole ruling.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we are not just talking about any other person. We are talking about the Chief Justice, who is the administrative head of the Ghana's judiciary, supervising almost everybody. So today you are telling us that your own judges have the tendency to be biased.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So when did they become biased?
Yeah.
When? So they have that tendency. So other people have suffered similar fate in the hands of supposed biased judges under your leadership. You're only advertising incompetence, so sincere and so innocent.
Folks, and in the house is Ivan.
Ivan. Yes, if you heed the wise counsel, there are some of these things you avoid. And today, she's at the High Court. She has filed fresh processes at the High Court, and it's not being heard. And she jumped over to Nigeria to ECOWAS Court now, asking for $10 million to be paid. I think she's embarrassing herself. For me, I think she has to just subject herself to the in-house process.
We have just 1 minute more to go. Give her advice. Let me end on your advice today.
I think if she will listen, I think enough of the politicking will not help her, because she's not a politician.
Yeah.
And whatever she does within the political space will not fly. What she has to do is that respond to the accusations that has been leveled against her. Meet the committee. Argue your case out, make your point out, let them make their decision. After that, if you think you were treated unfairly or whatever, you have a voice. You can tell the world your story, and people back you up. You understand? But some of these flimsy excuses, running around just trying to dodge the bullet, cut the convenient part, and sway public sentiment by whipping emotions and sentiment will not fly, because today the concern of the average Ghanaian, me sitting here and you, our concern is about sanitizing the judiciary.
Thank you.
Any individual is just a small piece of the bigger puzzle. So we will not sympathize with you and let go the entire judiciary. You understand? We will save the judiciary instead of individuals. So she needs to package this and appreciate and avoid those bad counsel she's getting from, I don't know where she's getting those from, and maintain her position so you can live in dignity. You don't need to live in pieces, in ignominy, like you embarrass yourself at the end of the day, you go in shame. That one, because the trend and the tangent she's on, she's likely to exit in shame. And for me, I think that's not good, because there are a lot of stuff coming up which are not supposed to if she had not done what she did. You understand? So I think if she will listen, that will help.
Folks, that is called unfiltered, man. Ivan, I think this is I said, what did I say in the beginning? If you love it, must come twice. Twice. Maybe one day to be, if you love it, must come thrice.
Oh, sure. We will. And I am motivated by this. We rise by lifting others. That's a very powerful thing. And because of this, I'll come here again.
Please come. Come and let us rise and then lift others.
Yeah, we are going to build this platform.
Thank you. Thank you. And the other name for this platform is the wall. We will sit on the wall and make sure we keep it.
We would assess the issue from a very dispassionate angle, perspective, independent-minded, fair-minded, very objective. Critical thinking. I think that is what we need. And that is what we've been missing from mainstream media. I wonder why people you've revered so much all of a sudden depart from their principles in the name of money. Life isn't all about money. At this young age, money is not a motivation for me. I want to see people do well. I want to see young people have an opportunity, grow to become somebody. You understand? When I see people grow, that gives me. It's not about how much I have in my account. So what? I know that you can't feed everybody. You can be the richest person in Accra. The poorest person in Accra fed yesterday. Today, the person is eating with a kid even laughing. So you must be smart.
Unfiltered, y'all.